Welcome to Andy Likes Cars. Right now we're at the Supercar show in Auckland. Let's go have a look and see what amazing supercars are here to view today. So we're coming in, and the very first car that's on our left is a McLaren Senna. This is a well over $1 million car. Very rare, very exclusive, very interesting. But let's continue. This car's worth $1.5 million, so that's quite expensive, quite interesting. Not really my thing, to be honest. It's cool. So this is a McLaren Speedtail. This is an extremely rare opportunity to see one in New Zealand. This is the first time that McLaren Speedtail has been shown in New Zealand, so it's an absolutely unique event to be able to see it here today. And it's called a Speedtail because it has that really interesting swept back on it, so that's quite exciting. Behind me here is a Jaguar XJ221 of, I think, 492 build. Very interesting car, very, very, very different. Awesome to see it here. Here we are in the basement of Giltrap, and behind us is a Benetton Michael Schumacher Formula 1 racing car. Very rare and very interesting, very exclusive car. Over here we have some more racing cars. McLaren is most famous for actually being a New Zealand manufacturer, and here is one of their older racing cars, raced by Denny Hulme. That's very cool there as well. A lot of racing history with that one there. That's a Formula 1 car. This is a Can McLaren here. And you can tell that McLaren was a New Zealand brand because we have a kiwi as the logo. So that's why the modern McLaren has what looks a little bit like a logo. Very cool. Okay, so this is an old Ferrari. Now I don't know much about this, but don't for a moment think it isn't worth an absolute ton of money. It's probably very expensive and exclusive, and isn't it exciting to see it here today? Absolutely fantastic. I think this might be a Testarossa. Now, as you can see, there's a clear engine cover which they call the Redhead, so it's very unique, very cool. Right, so around here there is the Nissan GTR and a Honda Koenigseggs, which of course are also supercars, and there's more stuff up there. The very first HSV that came out, very rare cars, worth about $100,000. Very nice to see one here today. Absolutely fantastic to see one in the metal. So you can see that they made minimal treatments, but Tom Walkinshaw was actually the instigator of holding special vehicles. So he was a British racing car driver. Now if we come up here, we can see a W1 HSV. So this car here is very rare because it's the W1. It's the basic line. Of course, no supercar should be complete without the new Corvette, retailing for a US $60,000 apparently, but certainly not looking like a $60,000 car. Very cool. Very interesting. Actually does look like a supercar, which is quite impressive considering it's not. In fact, it's probably very affordable. However, in New Zealand, for some reason, they're retailing for about $250,000, so they're not actually that cheap. So something's been lost in translation with transferring them over here in terms of money. 60,000 US dollars should be about 120,000 New Zealand dollars ish, if it's double. So not 240, but for $120,000 this would be an extremely fantastic car, and it actually looks pretty good. Okay, so the other really cool thing is that they have the Audi Quattro here, so the early sort of another homologation special. We've had a bit of a homologation special day here today. This is not the Quattro short wheelbase, so just a standard Quattro, but still very cool to see it. Rover, they are well represented here with the SVR. This is a massive 540 odd horsepower V8, goes like stink, really fast, really cool. Now, in front of that is a new Defender, so they're making these quite often. And I think at the top here, now this is quite interesting. So very recently Land Rover announced that they were going to start making these again. So even though this is the old Defender, what they did, I think, was they took old Defenders, or really ones in quite good condition, and then they recommissioned them with a brand new V8 engine. And I believe that's what this one here is. It looks like it. So it's actually technically a brand new car. I think it was sold as second hand because it doesn't have airbags. But if you wanted a brand new Land Rover Defender, you can technically buy one with a stolen radiator, although they're quite a lot more expensive than the regular one, but still very cool to see it here. Yes, it is. Yes, it is very cool to see it here. Okay, so moving around here, we arrive in the world of Bentleys. Now, of course, Bentleys make really nice cars, and here they are. And this, of course, is the the last edition of the Mulsanne. The Mulsanne is the big Bentley. It's a really expensive Bentley. It's the one that's really flash. If you've got one of these, you really have made it. It actually makes the Bentayga look a little bit less flash, if I can dare say that. But yes, it's beautiful to see it here. Absolutely fantastic. All right, so behind us is a Bentley Bentayga, the SUV Bentley. It's big, it's brash, and it's interesting. This is a newer one with a slightly revised interior. It's a nice car, very nice. Now, what we will do now is we will continue here to Lamborghini, where we've already seen some Lamborghinis today. And apparently, one Lamborghini is really excited to see us putting its alarms on, saying, "Don't touch us, you'll break it." But this is clearly a brand new Lamborghini, and it's one of the last of the line. This is the great thing about Lamborghini, is that they go absolutely crazy with their last of the line vehicles, and it's the Joker version of the Aventador. And it's a convertible, so it's absolutely fantastic. We can see the car right here, and it's lovely to see it here. Look, it's got these little weird catches to open the bonnet. I assume you actually remove the whole thing, which sounds terribly practical, that's okay, but it's really cool to see it. Look at the colour of it, it's absolutely stunning. Wow, what a car, what a car. Now behind us, this is not the first time I have made a video today about a Lamborghini Countach, because behind us we have another one. This one's spectacular. This is actually an earlier car from the one that we saw before. So the one that we saw before was a 25th anniversary one. This, I believe, is a 5000S, so that's probably a couple of years earlier. Lovely to see it here. The car that I'm actually really excited to see is over here. Behind me is the car that started supercars. Now, some people will say that there are probably 3 cars that can be counted as the first supercars. The Mercedes SL Going from 1954, the Ford GT from the mid-1960s, and then probably what is arguably the first supercar, the Lamborghini Miura. Now, I've never seen one in New Zealand, ever. The only time I've ever seen a Lamborghini Miura was actually in Australia. So it's the second time I've ever seen one, so it's quite special. So if we go over here, we will find...
So I can't lunch there, but I can't afford it, right?
Here it is. It is magnificent. This was the car that very famously was made to basically give 2 fingers to Enzo Ferrari, because Lamborghini was a tractor manufacturer and was a well-off man, and he purchased quite a few Ferraris, and he didn't really like the way they worked, and he wanted to give feedback to Enzo Ferrari. And Enzo Ferrari said, "You don't know what you're talking about, you make tractors." And then Ferruccio Lamborghini said, "Well, I'll show you," and he did. He produced this. This wasn't his first car. First car was a 350, then there was a 400, and then there was a Miura. But when this came out, it was a sensation. This looked like a spaceship going down the road in 1967. Can you imagine being a small schoolboy on the side of the road and this going past in the mid-1960s? What a spectacular vehicle. This is a very rare car. You don't often see these. It's absolutely spectacular. Now, around the front of this beautiful car, you can see that it has the eyelashes. What a sight. This is an awesome car, and it might indeed well be my favourite car of the show because it's just so special and so beautiful. Sorry, I had to. Now, behind me is of course some more Lamborghinis. There is a Lamborghini Roadster, and this is actually quite nice. So you don't see many Roadsters around, and you really don't see many in this dark green paintwork. It's actually quite a nice colour. It's really quite special. Now Hoovie from Hoovie's Garage has apparently got one of these. He's just made a video about it. He just picked it up. But I think this one's in a lot better condition than this one because it's quite unique, and it's got green format, so a bit different. A little bit different, a little bit unique, a bit 90s, but hey, what don't you love about that? It's spectacular. Now behind that's a Murcielago LP640. That's a very cool car as well. But I don't think I'll make too much of a video about that because if we go through here, we're going to see another really awesome car, guys. This is really exciting. Okay, so this is a Bentley. A very cool Bentley. This is a Bentley. I want to say it's a Supercar. It's an 8 litre, so it's a Bentley 8 litre. Now what this meant was that when Bentley were making cars back in the 1920s, they competed with Rolls-Royce. This isn't really a car from when they were owned by Rolls-Royce. And the 8 litre was their top of a range car. And and outside there's Lamborghinis and Aston Martins driving around. So they managed to make the street furniture look as good as the cars in here. Now, in all honesty, that's really spectacular. So yes, this is their flagship car from the 1931. So this was just after they actually were bought by Rolls-Royce. Rolls-Royce bought Bentley in 1929, I believe. I think that's right. I'm not entirely sure, but let's continue on. So behind this is a racing Bentley. This racing Bentley. Apparently Pikes Peak, so I'm just going to assume that a Bentley went up Pikes Peak, which is a famous race mountain hill climb course in America, so I'm just going to assume that. I'm not entirely sure, but why else would there be a Pikes Peak edition? That's really cool. The Bentley Continental behind us, really cool. Now over here is a really cool Bentley. I've got to show you this. This is the GT3R, so it's kind of cool too. Racing ones, got no back seats, but also make it go fast. This is cool. Okay, so this I think is a Brooklyn, and basically they took the Azure, the Arnage, and then shortened it a little bit and put it a back seat. But for what is a coupe, it's enormous and quite nice. It really does have that special sense of, you know, grandeur. And it's got a British registration plate on it as well, which is unusual, not sure why, but it looks amazing. What a special car. Okay, so we've now reached the top floor. Now, behind Moses, my wonderful cameraman, is some supercars, some hypercars, and ones I've never seen in New Zealand before. But I'm gonna make you wait to the end of the video to see those, because there's also a whole lot of other cool stuff to see. So over here, we have some Porsches, the new Taycan, new electric Porsche, really interesting, different, fast, but it's look, that's not what we're really here to see. I think that this is a much more cool, an older 996 Turbo. I always thought that this was my favourite Porsche. I'm not really a Porsche person, but if I was going to have one, it would be this one here because it just looks spectacular. And I really like it. And my second favourite Porsche has always been the Targa. I love the idea of a Targa. And this one here, the newest most modern one, is quite nice. Here it is. It looks really nice. Great lines. And the thing I love about it is it has the basic lines from older Targas from the 1970s, so I really like that. That's what I like about it. If I was to configure my perfect Porsche, it would actually be a turbo with a wider body and the Targa top. I think that would look ace. It would just set the car off. That's me personally. Porsche don't even make that car, so it'd be a very expensive exercise. I'm sure they'd make it for me if I had enough money. But that's me. I like things a little bit different. There is quite a few Porsches over here. Over here, there is one Porsche I will show you because I think it probably is worth mentioning, even though it's not really my thing. But it is I think it's a Porsche 911 Speedster. That's what I think it is. Oh, there's also that. Yeah, 911 Speedster. So if you think to yourself, gee whiz, I want a Porsche 911 convertible, but I want something that's more expensive and looks slightly different, then you have the Speedster. I also don't think this one has rear seats like the other one. Now over here, there is a lot about it, but it's a Le Mans car, so it's a 919 hybrid, so that's quite cool, quite rare, quite interesting, quite unique. Don't see many of those on the road. Okay, so if you want to come with me, follow me through here. We're going to go around here, we're going to go find the other supercars. Oh my goodness, I see some awesome cars. Oh yes. And welcome to the start of Supercars. So behind me we have the legendary Aston Martin 5. No, this is not the one that is most associated with the James Bond movies. There is actually a James Bond real 1965 Aston Martin in New Zealand. It's actually owned by Peter Jackson, believe it or not, down in Wellington. But that is not it, but it's still amazing to see it. Now, I just mentioned to you before some of the very first supercars, and of course, here it is, a Mercedes-Benz SL. Now, this is a Roadster, it's not the coupe, but it still is a 300 SL, and it absolutely counts as a car to look at and appreciate. So this is one of the very first supercars, well, widely acknowledged as being the first supercar. Now next to that, I think I know what this is, and I think I know why it's special. I believe it is a recreation commissioned by Jaguar, modern made, so not actually old, but looking quite old, Jaguar XK-SS. This would be multi-millions of dollars. Well, to be honest, so is the Aston Martin DB5, but still, multi-millions of dollars. Very special. Come around here and we'll be able to see the piece. That's really interesting. I like the Jaguar. Okay, yes. So yes, just check that out. It is a continuation car. What that means is that Jaguar in 2017 built some more of these. So it is officially a Jaguar. It is built to the original specifications, and it is not a replica because it is made by Jaguar. But it's a new but very old car and very expensive. Very cool to see. And of course, let's just go straight to it. My favourite car, one of the cars I've loved since I was this high, the Ferrari LaFerrari. It is the absolute legend of all supercars. It was made in 1987 to 1992 and was the last Ferrari that Enzo Ferrari had direct personal involvement in before his death in 1988. Now, if you look closely, you can see that the paintwork isn't quite even, and that's really important for provenance of these vehicles because they have such thin red paint on them that the carbon fibre weave shows through. So collectors really want to see that carbon fibre weave underneath it because that's really important for originality and history of these vehicles. It's absolutely probably my favourite car here. Now, we will continue to go through here because there's some more supercars. So behind me here is the new Ford GT. It's a very fast, capable car. Apparently this is quite cool, quite special. Now, if you look around here, what you'll see is that there's little fat holes that go straight down the side. Now, not many cars have giant cutouts in it. That's to help with your aerodynamics. Over in the corner doing what Toyotas do well is the Lexus LFA. Now that's probably a little bit cool because the Lexus LFA is actually probably one of the best supercars out there in terms of drivability. However, it was sort of meant to compete against the Ferrari 599, but somehow it cost 3 times the price. So not quite sure how that works, but it's a great car nonetheless. Next to that is an McLaren Series SLR Roadster. Very cool. Haven't seen one of those in a while. Haven't seen one of those in New Zealand actually, so that's quite different and unique. Now, next to that is another Ferrari. Now, this is the rear SP Monza, I believe. Very rare. I've seen this car before in Auckland. It doesn't come with a windscreen. So, from the factory, you pay free. I believe that this car here is valued in the region of 3.5 to 4 million New Zealand dollars. From memory, if we want to go back to, that's basically what it's worth. But the car next to it's worth even more. It's worth about $5 million, which is that's what you could expect to pay for one of these cars here if you are in the market for such a thing. So these two are probably the most valuable cars here today. $10 million right here, basically.
I mentioned earlier to look at your wristband and see what the number is. If your number is 2719, I need you to come to Lamborghini Auckland reception. 2719. You've got until 5 o'clock. 2719. You won yourself a Hartman card and citation 1 speaker. 2719 is on your wristband. You'll see a number.
Okay, so yes, the LaFerrari is one of the ultimate Ferrari. It's still the ultimate Ferrari, I think. Technically, newest ultimate Ferrari. They're a bit old now. First time I saw one was in Las Vegas in 2015. I think the SP Monza is pretty cool. It's a car you can buy that has no windscreen, so you can't buy many of those. Now, we continue on over here. There is another McLaren. Alright, okay. So I guess this is special. This is a McLaren P1, just like the McLaren Senna. It's up there as a hypercar, very rare. Yeah, interesting, I guess. It's very fast. Jeremy Clarkson drove one and slid it around some corners. I can't say much more about it because I don't know much more about it. But I do know a little bit more about the next one, which is... Okay, so this is a Porsche 918 Spyder. Once again, a proper, genuine, true, absolute supercar, hypercar. Electric and petrol, so it's a hybrid like a Prius but way faster. Now next to that is a car that is loved by people and hated by people in equal measures for those who have driven it. It has a reputation for being savage and snapping at the limit. It actually killed Paul Walker, the Porsche Carrera GT. Amazing car, very interesting. Now, and doesn't it look spectacular? I think of Porsches, I don't really like Porsches that much, but this one looks pretty good, I've got to say. However, next to that may be a car worth more money, which is, it must be said, probably the 2 crown jewels of the show, a Koenigseggs something or other. Probably a Koenigsegg Agera. I'm not entirely sure which model it is because they all look exactly the same with slightly different bits. This one has gold embellishments, but it's a Koenigsegg. Wow, you don't see those every day. In fact, I've never seen one before, ever. So that's the first for me. This car is probably worth in the region of $5 million as well, ish. Probably not cheap. And nor is the car next to it the quintessential older hypercar, because it's now out of production. Of course, the Chiron's out, but it's a Veyron. So you don't see a Veyron very often, certainly not in New Zealand. For anyone watching this video overseas, you're saying, I've seen a Veyron at a Cars and Coffee. Well, I've never seen one in New Zealand because they're just quite special and quite rare. But here it is, a Veyron in blue with dark blue, two-tone, different, unique, interesting, amazing, special. Absolutely fantastic. Great to see it here. Okay, that's fantastic. Yes. Right, you can pause. Can I go take some photos now? Hello. So, look, that's been really exciting. Now, one other really cool car here is a Project 8. Now, this is a specially commissioned project by Jaguar, which looks like the XC Saloon, but it's absolutely not. This is a full-on special. It has these very, very cool carbon fibre bumpers. Now, this has really expensive shock absorbers. That's something that's really interesting. This car is fully racing. It's like a BMW M3, but on total steroids because it costs way more. This is, I think it was £150,000-ish from the UK. Really cool car. That is the end of the show. Now, before we leave, we'll just look behind. I've just spotted it now as I've actually gone out, but there is a cigar. Rear special and interesting, very cool, very unique, got great rear lights, it's absolutely cool. Would love to look at that car a bit more closely, but it's time to leave unfortunately. They're actually kicking us out, everybody, it's finished. But it's been an absolutely amazing and well worth coming to event. And as we leave, as we walk down here, we can see the Aston Martin with its, looks like it's got gold wheels. It's so cool. And of course there's supercars on the street everywhere. So there's some supercars on the street. Anyway, we will kiss if you just follow me. We'll close out the video right here. It's just beautiful. Miura in the background. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it and you learned something new. If you liked the video, please share and subscribe and hit that bell notification icon, and I hope to bring you more content soon. Bye!